Okay, so I think what everybody wants to know is what was it like being on Growing Pains and being known as Boner?
Wait, what? That's
Weren't you on Growing Pains?
that is that is not that is not accurate. That's not what we agreed to. You were supposed to do some research.
Hey, where are you going? From the heart of Hollywood, it's the Patrick Labyorteaux Show with Patrick Labyorteaux.
It's the Patrick Labyorteaux Show. Patrick Labyorteaux. He's the one you gotta know.
Tonight's episode, Stuart
Patrick
Fratkin.
Labyorteaux Show. He's the one you gotta know.
Okay, you know him from Teen Wolf 2, Friends, and the legendary They Came From Outer Space. I know him as a fellow member of Section 8 from Ski School. Please welcome my friend, Stuart Fratkin. Hey, Stuart, how are you?
I am well. Thank you for having me as a guest on your show, Pat.
Dude, I'm so excited to actually see you and talk to you. As with a lot of people in life and in this business, you know, we work together, we love each other, but I haven't seen you in way too long, you or Monica or anybody in your family. So this is like really cool for us just to get together and just go down memory lane, man. It is a blast
Absolutely.
to have you. So yes, as the table setting here for us, Stuart and I worked together really only once, but boy, was it a great experience for me. And we'll find out how it was for Stuart in a movie called Ski School with another member of the podcast Guestology, Mr. Dean Cameron, who we both have a very significant history with Dean, but separate. So I want to talk about that. Act 1, beginnings. First of all, the beginnings of all of this, how did you find acting? How did you get into acting? What was it that drove you to the acting profession?
I was one of those kids, man, who just was just a class clown from the. I have pictures that my mom took when I was like 5 in front of like a curtain in our house in Canoga Park with like this weird top hat and this shoehorn cane that I would use. And I'd come out from the curtains and do some kind of improv show for them that they would, politely go, okay, Stuart needs a hobby. And it kind of just, went from there. I assume it was the same with a lot of other actors like yourself. I did like, 8 millimeter movies,
Right.
takeoffs of movies that, at the time we loved, like the $6 Million Man, we did an 8 millimeter movie, Earthquake, um, uh, Jaws. We did all those, and then that kind of
Yep.
just, it continued into high school. I did theater and did improv classes. That probably was the turning point for me was in high school. The first 2 years of high school was with the most unbelievably professional theatrical teacher ever. She was so strict and taught us the basics, uh, beginning, intermediate, and advanced theater training. And then she left to start her own theater. And then
Right.
the next teacher who came in was strictly about improv, classic improvisation. So
All
that's
the
all we
Spolling
did.
games and all of that stuff from
Exactly. You got
yeah.
it. Yep. And did, Freeze. He did this one called Gemini, which you had to play 2 characters. Then another one called Die Line, which was a skit where you would have to make up a way to die, a new original theatrical way to die. And so this class got so popular in my senior year of high school, the other classes that were going on would go to come see our show. It was called the Friday Show. And so one class each week got to come to one of our improv shows. And then from there,
Wow.
I went to junior college and was a, I majored in getting stoned and playing pool. And then, I kind of, got introduced to an agent through somebody that you probably know, Malcolm Denard. Do you know who that is?
Of course, everybody knows Malcolm Denard. If you don't know the name, you know the face.
Yeah.
Again, of the '80s, it was just
Yep.
he was around, and I just recently saw him a couple years ago. God, what was the name of that movie? Heaven Help Us, or
Yes. He was in Heaven
yeah,
Help Us. He got his start in a movie called The Lords of Discipline.
right?
And so Malcolm got me introduced to a agent, and that's kind of, you do a little bit here and
And
there.
how
And
old were you about there? I mean, you're in junior, so like
yeah,
20.
it was 22, 23 at the
Uh huh.
time. And then I got into an improv class, a great improv class. Eventually I got to the groundlings, but this improv class was not.
I never knew you went to Groundlings. I
I
was
did.
there. What was your experience at Groundlings?
Uh, it was great. It was great. So that was years later after I'm sure that you and I had already done ski school at Teen Wolf too. I can't tell you how important that was, especially as a young actor going on auditions. So
Right.
once, you can improvise on and you can be present and on your feet make up something, it's invaluable. So I would say the first half of my career, I got the majority of jobs because I was able to improvise.
One of the things that was really obvious when we were doing ski school was that your improv background, because we had no script for them. Well, we had a script, but it was just sort of like, but they also said, hey guys, we need 8 scenes or whatever. And we'll go into the details of it. But you and Dean specifically were such a good team together that I think came from that improv training. But okay, so let's get back to, I just want to go through this like pretty amazing, I mean, start to your career. You're young, but you worked a lot. I don't remember you from Girls Just Want to Have Fun, but the reason being is when I saw it in a drive-in movie theater, my girlfriend broke up with me during the whole movie. So, and I don't blame her because half of me is watching the movie
You were
and half of me is
distracted.
listening to her breaking up with me.
Sure.
But it's your first listed credit. What was your
Yes.
experience on that, and how did you? I mean, what do you think of like a real-time job?
Oh, great, great stuff. I mean, that's good shit right there. So I did a cold reading workshop with another actor who you would know. His name was Wally Ward at the time. But his name is now today, he goes by his real name, Wallace Langham. He was in the
Right.
same class, and we did this showcase. And we got a manager. He got his manager. I got my manager. And my manager put me up for a movie called Girls Just Want to Have Fun.
Right.
So at the time, I was just a young, actor, and I had these improv chops. And so I went in for Girls Just Want to Have Fun for the lead's best friend. Had this great audition. It was one of those, read for casting, read for the producers, read for the director, all in one day. And so I was
What?
like, it was one of those like magical things. And so I read for them, and then it gets back to my manager, who was, you know, second, third rate manager. I don't even know her. She had one other client and then Stuart. So it gets back to me that I'm in consideration for the second, third banana in this movie.
Uh-huh.
But they've offered it to a kid from Beverly Hills High. His name is Jonathan Silverman. So he ends up taking it. And then my manager is like, well, what about another part for Stuart? And they're like, wait, what? You want him to now read for like a one-liner? Yeah, going from, and so she was, unbeknownst to them, I didn't have my SAG card yet. So
Oh, right.
I read for it, I get it, it's one line, whatever. It's my first time on set, it's not a great experience. I finish, I wrap, I walk out, and my manager comes running up to me and she goes, Are you done? Are you finished? And I go, yeah, I'm finished. And she goes, oh, good. They didn't know you weren't in SAG. They have to Taft-Hartley you now. I was like, okay. So years later, Pat, I'm reading for a movie called The Blob. And the director was the producer of Girls Just Want to Have Fun. So I go in and I read for him. I think his name is Chuck Russell.
Uh-huh.
And I go in and read for it. And he sees me walk through the door and he gives me this look like, you son of a bitch. And he goes to the casting director who's in there. So I go in to read and he goes, you want to hear a story about Fratkin here? He didn't tell us he wasn't in SAG and forced us to Taft-Hartley him on a movie I produced a few years ago. And I was like, what are you talking about? That's not what happened. Anyway, he was half joking and half serious, so.
Well, only the producer would care, because when I don't know the exact details, but in case anyone's confused, if you don't have a SAG card, you can't be in a SAG film. And if you're not in a SAG film, you can't get your SAG card. So there's this thing, the Taft-Hartley, which comes to like closed shops and unions, where if you're a unique talent that only you can be that particular person, you can get the part and they Taft-Hartley you, but it comes with, whether they call it a fine or a fee or whatever they call it, it's just a penalty. So the producer, Chuck Russell, who then went on, I think, didn't he do The Mask or some other movie?
Yeah, I think he did.
But, yeah. So he would remember that on his line item for a low budget movie, you cost him more than his day player rate that he was planning on.
That's correct.
For you. So you do this movie, you get your SAG card, which is fantastic, and then you go on this run. I'm looking at it here. I'm looking at my notes here. Facts of Life, Golden Girls, Silver Spoons. It's all like just number one. Did you know when you were going through this that you were doing so well, or did you just think that's the way it goes?
That's a great question, man. I mean, you could answer that yourself, but I mean, I will say that as a young actor, just going in and doing as my old roommate would say, my shtick. That's what I did. I went in and did my shtick and got the role, and I just thought, this is easy. This is how it's going to be. This is how it's going to be forever. This was so easy.
Exactly.
So, I mean, it was one after another. It was, Facts of Life and Silver Spoons and, Love American Style and then the Golden Girls. I mean, it was all these, great shows, these great sitcoms. And all I really wanted was to be on a sitcom. When you have the background of, if you are doing, you do high school theater, right? And then you do college theater, and then you do equity waiver theater. And that is your introduction into TV and film acting, although it's, it's a different medium. When you do that, when you go from the stage to working on sitcoms, for me, it was like a little play. Right? There was an audience there, and I was already really accustomed and attuned to an audience being there and me knowing that I needed to know my lines, and there wasn't a retake in my head, even though, you and I both know that they would shoot retakes after the scene was completed. But in my head, I was never nervous. It came very easily in second nature. And so I thought that that's the way it was going to be for however long it was going to be for.
So then you do this movie, which, again, I'm researching this stuff. I hadn't seen, but I'm looking at it going, oh, my God. It's directed by a guy by the name of Rafal Zelinsky, who directed a movie that I wrote, and I have my own thoughts.
What?
One of your co-stars is Randy Vasquez, who was on JAG for years and years.
Yeah.
And I love Randy. And it was called Valet Girls, which I think of rip-off titles for like rip-off movies is one of the best ever, because Valley Girl was like around that period as well, right?
Yes.
So there's Valley Girl and Valet Girls.
Yes.
What was your experience on Valet Girls?
Another one of those great experiences for a young actor who is, still living at home, and that was the beginning of my association with Empire. I think that was an Empire film. So I don't know if you remember Empire.
Charlie Band, man. Love it.
That's right. So
So explain Empire, because Charlie Band is this Italian producer?
no,
No,
he's
no.
American, but he shot a lot of his movies in Rome.
Okay. And he
His
had a
father,
number of companies that changed names, but his process was the same. So this was a Charlie Band movie through
yes,
Empire.
yes, that's what Valet Girls was, and it was, Pat, it was just, what you see is what you get. But Valet Girls was, great fun. I have specific memories of filming on the Hollywood sign, which was incredible.
While we're in this area, I guess I don't know if this is the specific time because we're kind of right before Teen Wolf, but is it around here that everyone started confusing you with Andrew Koenig over at Growing Pains, or was that later?
I think it was a little bit later. It really probably peaked while we were in Vancouver. But definitely, when he was introduced on that show, I'd never watched the show. So when somebody first, paid me the compliment of knowing who I was, they didn't. And so that's when I was like, what the hell? This was all I kept saying. I think I had, back in when I moved out, um, I lived with a roommate, and so I would always record these messages on my answering machine. And they were always, written out and they were staged and rehearsed. And one of them specifically, Pat, was, I'm not boner. Beep.
I think I remember that one. I think I remember hearing that one on your machine.
Probably.
There's probably other spaces to talk about it, but since we're talking about recorded audio, you do something which I find amazing. You have like an audio journal. Do you want
I
to
do.
explain that or talk about that? What is that about, and how did that
Uh,
start?
it started the birth of the audio diary came from one of my friends in 1980. We all went to Las Vegas, and I was 16, and my friends were 15. And so we went to Las Vegas because my parents were there, and one of my friends, Gabe, brought this tape recorder, and he taped the whole trip. And I thought
Uh-huh.
it was incredible. I thought, so he was like, you want to listen to it? So I listened to it, and I was like, oh my God, it's hysterical. And it's like a slice of life. And so I bought this, I think it was like this big, Pat. It was, it wasn't
Yeah.
what it is today. And then it shrunk down, and they were all cassettes. They weren't the micro. And everywhere I went, I brought this handheld tape recorder, and it served as my journal. And so it went with me everywhere. It went to the set of Teen Wolf. It went to Ballet Girls. It went to all the TV shows. It went to Canada. It went, everywhere with me. And I'm telling you, the shit that's on there. So sometimes I would just turn it on, and it would just, so you're on there. One time in my hotel room in Vancouver, in Whistler, I just turned it on and it would just record. And, no one has access to any of the tapes except for me, and I still have them and I still do it.
We'll be back after these messages. Have you ever thought about becoming an actor and making your friends and family jealous? Well, have I got a deal for you. Here at Working Actors School, we offer many different classes so you can become a famous actor like me. And we have a delightful selection of classes, including Adult Weekly. It's every Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. Pacific. Here you will learn how to be an actor with other adults. How do we do it? How is it possible? Is it a miracle? Yes, it is. It's a miracle called Zoom. We teach everything online so you can become a famous actor and impress your friends and family. So if you want to be a famous actor and make your friends and family jealous, then you need to sign up at Working Actors School. You can get a hold of us at workingactorschool.com. You can sign up for classes at workingactorschool.com. You can make a reservation for the class online at workingactorschool.com. So come check us out. It's workingactorschool.com. Act 2. Success. Let's talk about Teen Wolf 2, okay? You're in this movie as a character from the first movie that's been recast. Jason Bateman plays a new character that's not Michael Fox, but like his cousin.
Correct.
And then James Hampton is in it as the same character.
Correct.
Walk me through your experience with Teen Wolf 2, getting the part, why they recast, and all that.
Okay, so the original script, and I think this is posted on my website, and I have talked about it before. The name of the character that I played in Teen Wolf 2 is not the name of the character in Teen Wolf 1. So the character in Teen Wolf 1 is Rupert Stilinski. The character that I play in Teen Wolf 2 is Ridley Stilinski. And I have proof of that. And
but they're both called Styles in the movie.
They are both called Styles in the movie, but Pat, it's never explained. And that is the God's honest truth. Just so you know, I didn't see the first Teen Wolf when I read for Teen Wolf 2. I knew it was a hit. You know, I knew the basic plot line. I knew what it was about. I also knew it was a huge box office hit, and it dovetailed on the success of Back to the Future. Wonderful. Good for them. And so when I read for it, I had no idea that Jerry Levine was not involved in it. So my assumption was there was a relationship between the two characters, but I never
Jerry
read
Levine playing Styles in Teen Wolf.
Jerry Levine played Styles in the first one, and he says himself that he was not asked to play Styles in the second one. That's according to him on some DVD commentary we did behind the scenes for the 25th anniversary of Teen Wolf and Teen Wolf 2. We both did segments for that, and he said he wasn't asked to do it. So why? I don't know, but I do know that I went in for it. It was down to me and a couple other people. One was, do you know someone named Josh Richmond?
Yeah, he was in Heathers.
And so I came in, and I was, ready with the second callback or whatever, and Josh came in, and he was wearing a top hat, a cane, and had all these scarves around him. And I looked at that, and I looked at him, and I was like, okay, that's a choice. And so if they're trying to decide between, me and him, I think it's pretty pretty cut and dry.
Obvious.
They're going to go this way.
Right. It's not. You're not threatened, but you're just like, okay.
No. And I was, I will say that, going back to our conversation about improving lines, when I introduced myself to him, I improvised, I'm Styles 2, the sequel. And that always got a good laugh. So I don't think that made the cut in the movie, but that's what
it did not make the cut in the movie, but I think it probably should have been in, because that's hysterical.
That was one of those things, Pat, that I said, I was like, that's one of those money things they loved. They thought it was funny, so I repeated it. So then eventually I read with Jason on that stage. And then we had a final meeting. Me and Esty Chandler had a final meeting with the executive in charge of the production, Bill Tennant. And then we had a meeting with him, and then, that was, they cast us. And then we went to Claremont and shot it. And it was a lot of fun. It was a weird production. There was a lot of tension on the set.
From mainly, what?
So the executive in charge of the production, he was a vicious prick.
Don't shade it.
I'm not going to, because this guy was the meanest, nastiest presence.
But when you're making a comedy, that's the energy that you need on set.
He would sit in the back, and he would just have this scowl on his face. So the first scene that Styles is introduced, so you see that room, it's filled with all kinds of stuff, all kinds of little tchotchkes and all kinds of little things. So I'm like, okay, So I get up and I'm like, I'm walking around the room, commenting on everything in the room about being in college, and this is amazing, and look at this thing, and look at the moves. I'm sorry, so sorry they did this to you, and all this, classic improvisation, which was, I would say, it was pretty funny. So
Yeah.
get a call in my hotel room the next day, and it's from Chris, and he goes, I had a conversation with Bill at the studio. We need to reshoot that scene. And I'm like, why? What, why do we have to
Hair in
reshoot?
the gate.
He was like, you have to stick to the script. And
Oh.
I said no. And he was like, Stuart, you can't say no. And I was like, Chris, that was good stuff.
Where do you get the cojones to say that to the director?
I mean, listen, I don't know about you, but when I was young and I was like working and I thought this shit's never gonna end, I was like, I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do, and if you don't like it, that's, you know, that's tough shit. And I didn't really
I'm
care.
flabbergasted because obviously I was trained as an acting automaton from when I was a child, where the director says
Sure.
something and you do it. So
Yeah.
it's a different vibe completely.
So it wasn't into, so I said no.
Right,
And
right, okay.
so we ended up cutting around it. Um, we didn't have a great relationship the rest of the film, but then I understood eventually that that wasn't the film they were shooting. So that's to me why there's an element to the film that is missing that could have been there, that charm, that comedic element was missing from the final cut. They ended up cutting a bunch of my scenes, and they were all, the scenes that were funny. And they
Right.
focused on the romance, which, okay, I mean, that's not my choice, but that's the reason why I feel the way I feel about the movie, is that I'm glad that it has this nostalgic feel for a lot of people today that are in their 40s. But for me, as a film goer, it didn't really resonate with me because there was nothing really different about it than the first one. To me, it was just really just a
Agreed.
copycat, a version of the first one, when the original script that I read, that I auditioned for, was not what was eventually shot. So you have no idea when you're just about to go into it what the what it ultimately is going to be, what you're going to birth. So
No, in fact, once you're cast, at least my process is, once I'm cast, I'm like going, "Oh, this is going to be great because they cast me," and then you think, so they know what they're doing with me, so they must really know what they're doing. So this is going to be good. And then you get on set, and then you sort of start adjusting your opinion based on like, oh, this guy's really good. This guy's really good. And like I've said, I do think Jason's talented. So it's like I would imagine you're watching him going, okay, well, he's good. It's going to be good. He's a good lead. How is your personal, or how was your relationship with Jason? What was your guys'
so
connection like?
first of all, throughout the production, I definitely, I mean, I knew Jason's work from the Hogan family, um, and uh, and I don't think I had seen anything else he had done. I didn't see any episodes of Silver Spoons. I didn't see. He was in something else too, right?
He
So,
was not funny on Little House on the Prairie. I'm just going to say it
right.
straight out.
Um, but when I watched him work, I was honestly, I was like, this kid is really good. He
Yeah.
knows what he's doing. He's a professional like you. He was, you know, he was brought up in the industry, so he had presence. He was professional. Personally, with him and I, we hit it off right out of the bat, right out of the gate. I think that,
That's important when you're playing best friends. That's good.
yeah. So, or supposedly have this, in a lot of the scenes between me, Todd, and Mark Chubby were always worked out, and we tried to take full advantage of our relationship. But there's the inner workings of that set, Pat, were so weird that Jason and I eventually did not have a good working relationship about 2 weeks into shooting. Yeah, I think he lost his love for Stuart based on something personal that happened on the set. But I will tell a funny story.
Yeah.
So Jason needed to go back to Los Angeles to get something, but we shot the movie in Claremont. It was about an hour and a half, 2 hours from Los Angeles, and Jason had just taken part in the Long Beach Grand Prix. So he had this old car, and so he was like, "Hey Stuart, you want to go with me to back to LA? I have to go to LA, and we'll come back. We'll drive back to Claremont." I was like, "Sure." So we get in the car, and Jason's like 17, 18 at the time, and he is driving like a goddamn lunatic, Pat. I mean, he must have been driving 90 miles an hour the whole time. And on the soundtrack is Led Zeppelin. He's like, I love Led Zeppelin. And at the time I was like, I'm not really a Led Zeppelin fan, but he's blasting Led Zeppelin. And so I'm thinking this is going to be the end. And the paper the next day will say Jason Bateman, an actor, perish in car crash. So that's what I'm thinking about the entire drive. But to his benefit, he introduced me to Led Zeppelin. So I'll never. I'll always give him credit for that and getting us back to the set safely. So
It's amazing when you go and do a movie like this. What was your experience when it was released?
I'll never forget driving past the theater that I grew up going to movies at, the Topanga Theater on the corner of Victory and Topanga. The Topanga Theater was there, which is now a mall, and seeing Teen Wolf 2 on the banner. That to me was a standout moment in my life. That above
Without a
everything
doubt.
else,
Yeah.
what was worth everything. The premiere was a lot of fun. Yeah.
We talked like just quickly about the New Adventures of Beans Baxter. What was your experience on that? Because I mean, you
Incredible.
did a
Great.
number of
Amazing.
episodes.
This was at the very beginning of what would eventually be called Fox Broadcasting Company, the FBC. So they gave pilot presentations to a handful of these shows. Matt Perry was in one of them. Eventually there was Married with Children, and then Beans Baxter, The New Adventures of Beans Baxter, because Steve Holland was really the wonder kind at that time. He was the next Spielberg.
Yeah.
Steve was. So they did this pilot presentation. I played a character, the best friend of Beans, who he meets at a new school, and we shot the presentation at Cal Arts, and then I'll never forget I was on the set of a movie of the week called Daddy, and I get a call. No, I get a buzz on my pager. I get
Run to a
buzz.
payphone.
I did. I get a buzz on my pager. I look at it. I go call, and it's my answer machine from Steve saying, "We've been picked up for 9 episodes. Get ready to go to Vancouver."
Wow.
So we went to Vancouver and shot it, and it was just a great time. So much fun. And it was, during a time when I shot Daddy, and then I shot Teen Wolf, and then I shot Under the Boardwalk, and then I shot Beans, like in between that. It was so much fun. It was way before it was time. Very, very
Yeah.
strange. The casting was odd, with people like Bruce Wagner, a prolific, great
Playwright.
writer.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was in it. I mean, Steve had that kind of odd sensibility.
So you do Beans Baxter. We're going to get to Ski School, everybody. Don't worry. We love Ski School. It's our favorite movie. And then But that was it. Keith Coogan was on the show. And we talked about Under the Boardwalk. I was
Oh, yeah.
almost in that movie with you guys. How was your experience with doing Under the Boardwalk, which, Keith
Great.
loved?
I mean, that was
Good.
it was incredible. I mean, those, that period of time was so much fun. It
Yeah.
was, I mean, that was, when you work on these projects, they really are, you have your adopted family, you have an individualized experience during that time that for me is separate from any other experience you've had in showbiz. And you look at each one of them as an adventure or as an individualized experience. And so Under the Boardwalk was totally one of those weird, fun experiences. So Under the Boardwalk started off as a movie called Wipeout.
Right.
It was cast. It had all of the cast all put together. The two leads were cast. 2 weeks into it, they decided this isn't working. We need to recast the two leads. So I have very fond memories of going to Malibu, learning how to surf, hanging out all day, getting stoned with Brett Marks, and chilling until production was ready to get up and running. So eventually, Danielle von Zernick and Richard Paul were the two leads in that movie. And it's weird because I was contacted by, to me, it's always, it's in the back of my mind, and it's not one of those movies that really stuck. But it has gone on to be supposedly, because I was contacted by one of the producers recently if I would take part in a documentary about it, because I was like, what?
Wow.
A documentary about Under the Boardwalk? Supposedly it's shown at like classes in college that are specific to the ocean and surfing. They showed that movie, and I'm like, what? So he was like, I don't know if Keith mentioned this because I hooked Keith up.
No.
Yeah, so the producer was like, are you in contact with anybody else from the movie? And I said, Keith is the only one that I have any real connection with. The others I sort of, on social media, Brian Wimmer and Roxana Zoll and
Right.
Wally to a certain extent, who was in it too, Chris Rydell. But that was one of those movies, one of those experiences where they switched out the director too.
But Under the Boardwalk was like a Romeo and Juliet type of thing, right?
Correct. Take off
Yeah.
on Romeo and Juliet between the locals and the Vals. And so the locals were like, get out of our beach, Vals, and
Okay, so here we are. We're here at ski school. All right. So I did summer school, which was like this huge My Big Moment movie. Dean Cameron was in that movie. Obviously, he played Chainsaw. I played the football player. But then I get a call a while later. Hey, do you want to be in a movie called Ski School with Dean Cameron? It's an offer, which I'd never had an offer before. I think I had one other offer in my career. And of course, I love Dean. A Ski School sounds right, and I'll be in it, right? That was all I never knew. I didn't know anything about this character. My entire work on the character of Ed in Ski School was I'm wearing my baseball cap backwards. That was pretty much it. And having a great time with you guys in Canada. So that's I'll add as we go along, but that's how I got into Ski School. How did you find your way to Ski School?
Somewhat similarly. I think that, let's see, it was, I just, done all, the run up of those other movies, right? So I cut my hair, and I was like trying to, take on more adult roles because I was playing, high school and college, and I get a script. Once again, Pat, one of those, for me at that time, I did not care if the script was terrible. I felt like I'm gonna do my thing, and I'm gonna, rewrite wherever I can, and it'll be okay. Sometimes that didn't work out. This was one of those times where I read the script, and I swear I was like, I'm Dave Marshall. And
Right.
so I read the monologue that they wanted us to do. All the actors did the same one, um, and memorized it. Went in. I thought I nailed it, and so comes back to me from my agent that they are making an offer to Dean Cameron, and so at the time, Dean was post summer school. For me, he was almost a nemesis because most of the stuff that I went up for, that I was going in for, he was going in for. So
Right.
I would see his name on, the sign-in sheet. I'd see him sitting in the room, and I'd be like, "Oh my God, this guy." And I saw Summer School. Great movie. Excellent. Great showcase for all you guys. Mark Harmon, was just a fun movie. Carl Reiner. It was
Yeah.
fantastic. Just wonderful. Great movie. Springboard for all of you. Wonderful. But here's Stewart starting his career trying to figure shit out. And all I see is Dean Cameron. Fast Times, the TV show. Who went up
Right.
for Spicoli 2? Stewart. Who didn't get Spicoli 2? Stewart.
Stewart.
Who got Spicoli? Dean. So everywhere. So this is my Dean Cameron story too. So I'd see Dean. We didn't really know him. One time on the lot of Fox, we were both reading for a pilot called Babes. And so I'm outside, and at the time I've got my tape recorder with me, Pat. I've got my pad. I'm taking notes. I'm reading the script, and out of the door after his audition walks Dean Cameron, and I'm sitting on a bench. There's a trash can next to me. He walks by the trash can, Pat, has the script in his hand, flips it into the trash can, and goes, "Won't be needing this anymore." Just walks right past me. Not a word to me, not good luck, not, good to see you, whatever. Flips the script into the garbage can and walks off. So that was kind of the first time I had seen Dean. So then Dean gets the part. They offer the part to Dean. Offers it. Obviously, offer the part to you. And so they come back to me and they go, "Do you want to play this part? Fits?" And then I say, "There's nothing really here." And they say, "We'll flush it out. You can sit with us. We'll write it with you." So that's when we sat down. I sat down with the writers and we incorporated this other stuff. This thing about wolves and the relationship between him and Paulette, I think. Yeah.
Paulette.
So that's how that all happened.
One of the things I thought was really great about your performance with Paulette and everything is objectively everything that Fitz does would be canceled today, but it's not bad. He loves this girl and she is into it as well. It's not a Revenge of the Nerds type of situation where it's like they did what. You brought a lot of heart, and God, it sounds weird to say something like that to Ski School, but you did. You brought a lot of heart to that character where it's sort of like we all can relate to, falling in love, or it's certainly not a romance, but it's
No.
definitely like the character was a real three-dimensional type of guy.
I mean,
And it did have that wolf oh,
yeah. That,
issue to it, which was fun.
I don't know. I mean, people thought that was charming. They thought it was funny. They thought it was sweet and cute. I'm not sure that I really understood why they wanted to do that, but at the end of the day, the fact that we were able to write all of this other material, and then
Yeah.
I've told this story that we wrote all these scenes, and the next day they were in script form, and they were all shot. That to me is it. I mean, it is a standout in the movie, and I think that a lot of people that talk to me or ask me about it are always referencing those scenes. So
Right.
I was like, there's an opportunity to work with Dean. I didn't know you were in it at that point, and so I was like, sounds like fun. So I have a specific memory of being at the air, going to the airport,
Hmm.
walking to the terminal, seeing you talking to Dean. Dean's got a cigarette in his hand, and I walk up and I was like, "Hey guys," because obviously, I know who you are, and you guys probably know who I am. And Dean turns to me and he goes, "Welcome to Ski Stool." That was my first, those were the first words Dean Cameron said to me. And I was like, at the time, I was like, what? What?
That's
Welcome
some
to.
low grade punnage. That's not really that funny.
It was very Dean at the time. And so,
Yeah.
you know, it, that experience was once again just a snapshot of what that movie was, which was just a lot of fun. Just, I mean, there's so many specific elements to that movie, from Tom Bresnahan being pissed off because we were the comedy relief in
Right.
it, to sitting. I don't know if you remember this, Pat. Nadine and I have talked about it. We were sitting downstairs in it where the jacuzzi was, where a lot of the jacuzzi stuff was shot. And it was the one scene where they had a topless girl in the jacuzzi, and
Right.
we're all sitting there. I'm pretty sure you were there. I was sitting next to Dean. I thought it
Yeah.
was you, and we were watching them shoot this scene and shooting the topless girl from like every single possible angle, under the water, a close up of her breasts, pull back. They're playing with a beach ball, and we all look at each other and we're like, okay, this is that movie. This is that movie.
We
Embrace.
understood exactly where we were and what was
That's
happening
right.
because we knew we were going to get one or two takes for an entire scene, and here they are, burning daylight on boobs.
Yep. That was also, I remember, I mean, they never asked me if I knew how to ski. Um, and I know
They
that
never asked me either.
yeah, they didn't ask you. So you and I did not know how to ski. And I remember shooting way, on Blackcomb Mountain in Whistler, BC, at the end of their season, but there was still plenty of snow. And we're in like some remote location, and we had to like hump our way over to it on our skis. And I remember walking back on a very steep hill of snow, and two PAs like making sure I'm like traversing it properly so I don't, you know, slide down and they lose Fitz. Fitz is gone. You,
Well, we had. I mean, for me, it was like I had no experience. I fell off the ski chair when getting up to the mountain. I had to ski down on Damian Lee's back. He skied me down. It was just, it was horrible. But so, to set the scene a little bit, so we're up at Whistler Blackcomb, which is the ski lodge up in Vancouver. Had never been to any ski lodge. So to me, this was an amazing place. We were all kind of camped out there. There's one place that you see in the movie that was a nightclub called Tommy Africa's.
yep.
And it was the closest thing to, like what you said, the closest thing to what you see on camera is what was happening, right? In as much as the crew partied at Tommy Africa's at night, and then we shot the movie during the day.
Yep.
Strangely, or not strangely, if you know the people involved, you and Dean played video games, and I wrote movie scripts while the crew was partying. We were never really like a party type of acting troupe.
No.
But what I want to find out from your side of it, I got it from Dean. Something so magical happened with you and Dean in that movie. I thought what was going to happen was, when I read the script, it was like, okay, I get it. I get what I'm supposed to be doing in this movie. But Dean and I've worked together, and it's going to be kind of fun, and we'll come up with some stuff. But it was you and Dean that came up with this stuff and had this great relationship. How did you find that? I mean, how did you come to find that you and Dean were really a great team that would later, I mean, you do a whole series together, but how did you come to that realization?
I think it was, I think that, I mean, for me, I was so familiar with his work that I felt that there was like a kinship, an immediate like bond with him, especially in some of the scenes that we had for whatever reason, I'm not sure why there were these scenes that were in the script. This is prior to us rewriting it,
Mhm.
that were that had just Fitz and Dave, specifically the scene on the roof. I remember specifically. Um, in addition to, there was a movie that we bonded over that we thought was hysterical,
Crazy
called
people.
Crazy People.
Yeah.
Yep, that was it. And we thought David Paymer's character was, why did he look at everything and say hi to it? And so that became like a thing that we just did throughout the entire movie. You remember.
And Dean also instituted the no high five rule, or was
The
that you
no
guys
high five.
together?
Yep, that's
That's why
right.
you get high.
That's right. We did and then we stopped in the middle of that. I mean, also there was just, that's all we did, Pat. That's all we did was play games. There's a picture, I think, on my website on the ski school page. I think you're in it, of us playing video games. So that's when Dean and I like bonded over Mario Brothers, the original Mario Brothers. We rented the console from the local video place, plugged it into
Right.
one of our rooms, and then we just played Mario Brothers until our heads bursted, and then we continued that on to when we came back from Canada. We hung out quite a bit. My now wife, but my at the time she was my girlfriend, was out of town working on production. She was a coordinator, so Dean and I would hang out every day. Every day we hung out. We um, went to movies. We went to go see Days of Thunder. We went to the drive-in. We just, I don't know. It was just something that we just,
Yeah, you guys got. I mean, you guys. Did we just become best friends? I think so.
it was is our the same comedic sensibilities, I think, and the ability to play off of each other, and then plan things. Going back to the improv in between takes and stuff like that. That's where I think the birth of the lambada came from, and uh, the all the other shtick we did. I don't even remember the other stuff, but the other stuff we wrote. Whose underwear is this, and that stupid thing with the subliminal thing, and then Godzilla, and
Right. A
so
lot of the fun, again, it goes back to what, if you want to compare that to Teen Wolf, the things that got cut out of Teen Wolf were the things that made Ski School unique. It's the rough edges, it's that tactile, homemade, artisan feel of like, we came up with this shit
yeah.
in a hotel room and we think it's funny, and
Uh,
maybe you do too.
oh
And
my
that's,
God,
and
you hit it right on the nose. It's that kind of shit that you're thinking that's hysterical, that's funny, and you think it's funny, and you just want to put it out into the world to see who
right.
else thinks it's funny too. Yeah.
We'll be back after these messages. Hey there, I'm Patrick Labyorteaux, and I've been an actor since I was a little kid, so I know what it's like to be a little kid actor. So I have a class here called Youth Weekly, and that meets every Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. Pacific, and it is an awesome class if you are young and want to learn all about acting. We have a great set of kids, and it's taught on Zoom, so you can do it from anywhere. You can do it on your phone, you can do it on your laptop, on an iPad. It's awesome. I've had kids take a class while they were in the car coming back from soccer practice. I swear to you. So if acting is in your blood, come to workingactorschool.com and check out the Youth Weekly class every Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. Pacific. I'll see you there. Act 3, present day. Now, it's almost like you can't, there is no, they came from outer space without Ski School. And so I got Dean's version of the story. How did They Came from Outer Space happen?
Well, Dean and I were, like I said, we were hanging out all the time. We were, comparing notes. What are you going up for? What are you going? So Dean and I were going up for, at the same time, we were going up for this pilot, uh, and we were auditioning both for the part of the mascot of a sports team. And so Dean and I were auditioning for this. We went to the network, And so Dean had his character. Let's see, what was the deal? I think his character was like, I don't remember how he played it, but I played my character a little bit effeminate. And then there was the
Okay.
third character who was a straight up like character dude, and he came in a full crab suit for the network reading. He didn't do this for the audition. So when, when we went to network, you know what that's like, right? So you have, three completely different, distinct
Right.
interpretations of the character. And so there was Dean, whatever he was doing. I don't remember what he was
Uh-huh.
doing, but I know my character was a little bit more effeminate. And then there was the guy in the crab suit. And so the guy in the crab suit got the role. And then Dean put on his answering machine after he learned he didn't get the role was this. In a crab suit. Beep. That was it. So the script came for this, it's oddly enough another shot at another network. So this time this was called the Hollywood Premiere Network, I think it was called, and they were doing 3 shows. They were doing She-Wolf of London, Streets of LA, and then a show called They Came from Outer Space. They were all hours. And so Dean and I said, what he said, he was like, are you going in for the show? I said, yeah. And he said, I am too. And he asked me what character, and I said, I'm going in for Abe. And he said, me too. And I said, one of us, I don't remember which one, doesn't matter, but said, why don't we see if we could go in together as brothers and
Uh-huh.
audition together? So Dean wanted to go in as Bo, and I went in as Abe. So we practice it, Pat, and we do our shtick. We improvise quite a bit. We incorporate David Paymer's Hi Hello into the beginning of our audition. We have it all down. We memorized everything. We rehearsed the shit out of it in Dean's apartment in Laurel Canyon.
Uh-huh.
And then we go in and we're like, let's just have fun. So we go in, we do the audition. They're intrigued. And famously, Sheldon Pinchuk, who was one of the producers, and Sheldon says, hated the acting, loved the writing. And so we went in a couple more times. They weren't sure about Stuart, so they paired, I know Dean thinks it was somebody else, but I'm certain I know who it was. They paired Dean with Willie Ames. Um,
Okay.
and that didn't work. And then so we went in one final time, and we negotiated, of course, prior to going in for our final time of the network. And so it really was there really was, you know, for that show at that time, there really was nobody else that was going to do what we did. It just wasn't, it just was one of those,
It was a fever dream for anyone that knew you guys, because it's not, I don't want to take away anything from the acting aspect of it, but it was also, it was both of yours real life id. I mean, it was like exactly who you guys were.
it was one of those, it should have, you know, launched into something else after that, but there's more to the story other than the 20 episodes we did.
What do you mean there's more to this story? Like there's other things that happened, or there was more story to tell?
They talked about renewing it for 80 episodes. The other 2 shows weren't
Oh,
going to
wow.
accompany it. They contracted Dean and I for the next 3 months during pilot season. They didn't want us to take anything
Taking
else.
you off the table.
Yeah. So they paid us. And so then we tried to develop another show for Dean and I with Universal. One of the shows we did pitch, and we pitched to John Landis's company, coincidentally enough, going back to John. The writers tried to pitch a film version of Where in the World is Carmen Santiago? So then they did that, and then eventually I pitched to John, which I thought was a great idea when I had a relationship with John. I pitched to him a TV version of Spies Like Us. And
Oh, that's a great idea.
I thought it was a great idea too. And John was like, because I had introduced Dean to John through,
Uh-huh.
I did an episode of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, and John directed it. And so John
We're
was
talking
like,
about John Landis, the
I'm talking
famous
about
director
John
from
Landis
American Werewolf in London, Animal House, and
and
just obviously John
Trading
Landis.
Places and Coming to
Yeah, and
America
Spies Like Us.
and Spies Like Us. Yes. So John was doing this is going off on a little bit after Outer Space, but John was doing a TV show he produced, his production company produced, based on the movie Honey, I Shrunk the Kids
Hmm.
with Peter Scolari.
Right.
And so John was directing it. And so John said, "Do you know anybody, any actors who can do a Russian dialect?" So I called Dean, and Dean was like, I can do it. So I said to John, I know an actor who can do it. And he said, okay, it's on you. So I was like, okay. So Dean and I flew to Calgary, and we did an episode of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Day one, Pat, Dean. So I studied that goddamn dialect. And so we had to do two dialects, British and
Uh-huh.
Russian. And of course, ourselves. We had to be American too. So we were playing this pseudo 50s rock group called the Babkas. And so they were, the background is they were Russian. And so but they were playing English band members. And so Dean launches into his dialect, and I don't know if Dean remembers this, and it's not great. And and Landis calls, I don't remember what he said, something in his Russian dialect. And Landis calls cut, and he screams, "Fratkin, you're fired." That was in result. I was in results to Dean's Russian dialect. But who cares?
Oh my God.
It
So
was
you
just
guys
like,
do this show, which is like,
yeah,
if you've never seen it, it is like, I keep saying it's a fever dream. It's really funny. It's basically two brothers from outer space, and it's just, shenanigans, literally a bunch of shenanigans. But you guys are in every episode, you're in every scene, you're practically in everything together. You guys are friends. Did you ever have like moments where you're like, just get out of my face, I don't want to see you? Or was it just a love fest?
no, for the majority of the show, we got along very well. Dean probably does not remember this. Two instances. So one was in the second episode. I think I was still like, I'm sure I still had a little bit of a this will never end, and I'm going to do this forever. And so the second episode, we're shooting downtown LA, and it's a long ass day, and it's like 5:30, 6 o'clock, and the sun is going down, and they decide to shoot Dean's shot first and then turn around on me. And so Dean gets his shot, and they're like, I don't know if we have time to shoot Stuart, but let's turn around. And so there is an outtake, and I have a bunch of the outtakes, the raw outtakes from the show. And
Wow.
you can see me screaming as the sun's going down. I'm screaming, they go, cut, okay, print, whatever. They get one take out of it because who cares? Because the majority of all of the takes back were, one or two. And
Yeah.
so I'm screaming. I'm so pissed because the sun is going down and I have to hurry up and it's all about Stuart. Stuart has to finish and then we got to go home. And so I'm like I'm mad about it. And so I the sun's going down. It's cut and this is on camera and I go bye sun goodbye. And there's Dean's in the shot looking at me going. You could tell he's like, I gotta work another 6 months with this guy. But that was the only time.
Okay. But you did do an episode of Friends, and I wanted to ask you about that because any episode of Friends had to be Like, it was the biggest show on television for a young actor of our age. If you're doing an episode of Friends, that was like another. That was like, it wasn't doing the Tonight Show, but it was like that for actors, not stand-ups. Where it's like, okay, I did my Friends. I never did one, but it's like, oh, I always wanted to do one. What was your experience like with doing the episode?
Well, so don't forget, and for your audience out there, I was in the first season of Friends. So I was in episode 6 or 7 or whatever. So it hadn't exploded at that point. I think it was just at the
Oh.
precipice of being what you would know it to be today, which is one of the most iconic sitcoms in history. But at that
Well,
time,
then, because if you're in the early episodes, had you read for the one of the lead characters,
yeah,
or just
I
they?
read for Chandler several times.
Uh
I
huh.
went in and met the producers and went to, I met James Burrows, Jim Burrows, the
Yep.
incredible Jim Burrows, who ended up directing the episode I was in. So the producers were very sweet, very kind people, and they were casting this role, which to me was a great bit. And they, once again, they were like, we're going to give it to you if, so and so doesn't want it. So they were going to offer it to a name, and Friends wasn't Friends at the time, so the name said no, and so I got it. And so it was a pivotal role for that episode. I played one of Chandler's gay. I played the gay coworker of Chandler, and the payoff was my character at the end, which was the tag. And it was great fun, a lot of fun working with that cast.
Speaking for my people, I'd have to say no.
Seeing them at that time,
Mm-hmm.
a specific memory about Matt LeBlanc, great guy. Uh, Matt Perry, great guy. Schwimmer,
Yeah.
eh. Lisa Kudrow, very sweet. Courtney, I didn't have a lot of interaction with. Jennifer, not much either. But they, that was the time when they were building that show and trying to create whatever it was that, I don't know if you read that script, but it was incredible.
Yeah, I
Originally,
read for it. It was back then. It was, I think it was called Six of One. It wasn't even Friends yet. It was just
no, it
like
was
this
called Friends
pilot.
Like Us.
Friends Like Us. Thank you, thank you. And it
Yep.
was just like, yeah, I think every actor our age that had read for it. I read for the Chandler part as well. Again, the goofy guy, the funny guy, and just on an acting level, I don't know how you feel about it, but when you lose a part and you know you can do it better, it's so frustrating. But when you lose a part and it's like Matthew Perry and Chandler, you're like, oh, great, good. Like it makes you feel almost better because he's so good in it.
Matt was one of those guys too. So there was, whenever I'd go out and audition during those years,
Yeah.
I always saw the same actors. Dean was one of them. Matt was one of them.
What
Uh,
was the name of this show they did on Fox? I'm sure you were in on with a guy named Billy Gallo
yeah,
and
that was at the same time that Beans was
yeah.
on, and he
Okay.
was on it, and it was something about like
Second Chances or
yeah. I think
yeah.
I think you're right. Yes, he was on that, and then I went up against him for a show with Valerie Bertinelli called Sydney,
Sydney, right? Of
and
course,
so
that's
I
right,
went in
and
for
that's
that.
he ended up playing that part as
He
well.
did, yes, and so it was, when the entire town of young actors went in for Friends Like Us. I mean, I knew this is a great script.
Yeah,
Of course, nobody knew what it would eventually become, but I just knew it was a great script, and so I was thankful to go there. I went back, I shot another episode with the same character. That eventually that scene was cut. It was the one with John Lovitz in it. So later in that same season, that was back when they were doing, they had uh, uh, guest stars, and then as you know, eventually they did like stunt casting, and then they eliminated them
yeah,
entirely.
yeah.
It's
It's
one of those.
amazing when you think of the footprint of that show. I had a whole TV show called Last Frontier, which was at Fox, which was
How do
Friends
you
in
not know
Alaska.
this?
What?
Go on. Go on.
What? All I was going to say is that it
Yeah.
never would have happened if it wasn't for Friends. I mean, because it's Friends in Alaska. That's the pitch.
Yes.
What's
So,
what do you were you up for that show or what?
yes.
What happened? Really?
How do you not
What
know
happened?
this story?
I don't know. You've never told it to me.
No, I think I could have sworn we've shared this story. So
Okay.
I went in for the
Share it
show.
with me again because I'm very old
I
and
went in for
frail.
the show so if I remember correctly, they were having trouble casting that role. And so I went in and I dressed in a t-shirt and military fatigues and boots.
Okay.
And I had some great readings. And so um I went in whatever twice or whatever. I don't remember. Maybe it was once, Pat. Um, and they were like, okay, you're going to the network. And you were there. And Arlene Sanford comes out.
She's the
And
director.
she's the director. And she gives me some direction. And I swear, in my head, I was like, it's not what got me here. It's not how I played it. It's not how, but she's the director. This is so I was like all discombobulated. I was like, okay, she's part of the decision. I better like take her direction. So I went in and I did it. Not a great reading. Not, it wasn't anything that I had done to get me there. And eventually I was told I did not get it and you got the part. That's my last frontier story. So
Wow. And so
tell me,
it was
please.
it was a really great pilot season for me. Obviously, I had gone up for a pilot, which I got, but it was a guest star on the pilot, so I'd already booked a pilot, but not as a regular. Then I booked Last Frontier, and I remember it being. I didn't. You know those auditions where you're not investing your entire life and you go in and you read. I'm
Those
not
are
writing it off, but I'm not. I don't have my life story tied to this show. It was just sort of like it was this other show that I wanted to be on that I'd been cast as a guest star, but not as a regular character. And so I'm like, okay, well, this is a good comedy, and I know this character. The other show I was a guest star on was Jag, the pilot for
Oh,
Jag. And so
oh,
I had already gone up and I had already gotten, I was the first person on Jag who was cast. I had one audition and I walked in, I read, by the time I got back, I had been cast because it was a insignificant part. It was just like, oh, okay, great, we got that guy. And then when Jag went to series, they said, do you want to be on the show? And I'm like, I'm on The Last Frontier and they've picked up the option. I have to be on this show now, which again, a job is great and I'm loving it. But that's why I kind of don't remember all of the machinations to get The Last Frontier. I feel so embarrassed. I mean, if we were there. Holy shit.
I love that. That is such a great story, Pat. Yes, that was one of those shows. Like I had a couple of those that I
Uh-huh.
really thought I was going to get and didn't and was disappointed. But that is one of those things, like as I said, it's in my journal, my audio journal, somewhere in there about how frustrated I was that I didn't go with who brought me to the dance, which was my interpretation of the character. Whether that would have gotten the part or not, I don't know. I just know that my reading suffered because she came out. And maybe it was because I think she came out before I went in for my final reading. So I'd already like practiced and I already had it down. That's
Like,
funny
you
that
know,
we've
like,
never talked about it. So I'm just curious, was it fun?
oh, it was great. I mean, it was what I loved about it when I said earlier why I loved the sitcom. It was because of that. We had 8 episodes, which isn't a lot, but it's a lot when you're
Right.
doing it.
I love
I'm
that.
so embarrassed that I don't remember our interaction there because that's a big deal.
It
But you know
was,
what? I mean, here I'm talking to myself. Anytime you go into those meetings, God knows what you remember because all you're thinking about is your line, your play.
sure.
Dean tells this story that is similar to your story, but a completely different outcome. when he did summer school audition,
Yeah.
where Carl asked him to do something that was completely horrible, right? Just like this weird thing that Arlene asked you to do. And Dean calculated in his head, he was in the room, it wasn't like he had a moment. Carl asked him to do something, and Dean goes in his head, this is going to be horrible. And he did it, and it was horrible. And then he goes, okay, kid, get out of here, get out of here. And Carl shushed him out of the room. And then later, obviously, he got the parties on the set of Summer School. And Carl Reiner comes over to him, and he goes, you remember that time when I asked you to do that horrible adjustment? And he goes, yeah, what was that all about? And he goes, well, I'd heard you'd been a real pisher and had a, like really believed in yourself, and I wanted to see if you'd take direction.
Wow.
And it's
That
like,
is
yeah, I guess.
That is
Yes,
a
he did.
great story.
We'll be back after these messages. Hey, I'm Patrick Labyorteaux, and I play an actor on TV, and I've been doing this for a long, long time. And I know what it's like if you are in a class with people, and sometimes you just want to have that one-on-one connection with the person that you're working with to go over, I don't know, a particular scene, or maybe you have an audition, or maybe you just want the privacy to try stuff that you don't really know is going to work and not have anyone look at you. Well, I have the perfect solution for you. It's called One-on-One with Patrick Labyorteaux. You can book your time at workingactorschool.com, and it's just me and you for an hour going over whatever it is you want to work on, breaking down the script, talking about character, figuring out your intention, the spine of the scene, everything that goes in to making a dynamite performance. So if you're interested in acting and want that one-on-one personal attention, check out One-on-One with Patrick Labyorteaux. You can find all the information you need at workingactorschool.com. Act 4, questions. Okay, so let's get to the questions here, which are 9 questions I ask everybody. And it's called Tina's Gotta Know, because my wife came up with these questions.
Okay.
Number 1 is that's showbiz. What is the most Hollywood moment in your life?
Most Hollywood moment in my life was probably, this is not very Hollywood, Pat, but it's definitely falls within the category. So I'm on the set of Golden Girls, and I'm young, I'm 24, I'm in awe of, B. Arthur and Betty White and Rue McClanahan, and I'm taking it all in, and on tape night, the guest star for that episode is Polly Holiday, and we're sitting backstage, and Polly is playing one of the girls' blind sisters.
Okay.
And we're sitting backstage, and I'm not, like I said, I'm not nervous, right? I've done this. This is theater. I'm, in my zone. I have a couple of scenes. I'm ready. And Polly is sitting next to me, and I'm all giddy, and I'm all excited, and I could hear the audience. And they're making the introductions, they're introducing the cast, and I go to Polly, isn't this great? And she turns to me and she goes, and I go, I just got shushed by Flo. That is definitely the most Hollywood moment. One of the most Hollywood moments I've had. And it was like, okay, Paulie was trying to get into character and Stuart just fucked it up.
That's classic. Okay, number 2 is that's Showbiz Part 2. What is the most embarrassing Hollywood moment in your life? And maybe that was it as well. I don't know.
No, probably the most embarrassing moment of my showbiz career was I was working on Baywatch Nights. So Baywatch had Baywatch, right? David Hasselhoff was at the beach, and then they did this weird spin-off where he was a private detective at night called Baywatch Nights. So I was on Baywatch, and then they asked me back, and they said, you want to do something on Baywatch Nights? So I went, I auditioned, blah, blah, blah. I go do it. There's an actor on the show. He's a regular on the show. And he is... so it's David, it's I think her name is Angie, and this actor. And so we the director goes, okay, let's rehearse the scene. So I'm playing the son of an actress who has been murdered. She's an actress, she's an old Hollywood actress. And so my character is kind of a very effusive and vivacious and very chatty. So I start improvising and I see Hasselhoff's character and this other character who is one of the regulars, and I go, "Hey, how you doing? You guys look good. Hey, you doing? Hey, you look like you lost some weight." And so I go on to this whole shtick, and so that's my introduction to them. And so that was rehearsal. Rehearsal stops. The actor I direct my um, you look good. You looks like you lost some weight to is so fucking pissed off. In front of the crew, he goes to the director and he goes, "Why did he say that? What who told him to say that? Why did he say he lost weight? Tell him not to say that. He is not to say that. I don't know why he did that." And he goes off on a tangent. And so this is in front of the crew, and I'm standing there going, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." And so the director turns to me and goes, just stick to the script, Stuart. And I go, "Okay, no problem." So I stick to the script, and so I'm embarrassed in front of the entire crew. And so this guy he literally did not have any qualms about his behavior and didn't apologize at all. So that definitely is one of the most embarrassing moments.
And did you ever find out what his deal was, or no?
Yeah,
It's
his
just
deal
sort of
was
like,
he was fat, he gained some weight, and so he thought somebody told me and put me up to saying that to him. That's what he thought. So he was pissed off about
oh
it.
man,
So that was
poor
one of those
Stuart.
moments, Pat, where you shouldn't embellish on the script. You should just stick to the script. Otherwise, you'll get chastised in front of the cast and crew, and you're just a lonely guest star.
Okay, number 3, show me the money. What is your biggest missed financial opportunity from the business? Like people always have like kind of, oh, I could have gotten in the ground floor because of this movie I did or whatever it was. Like, investing in Tommy Africa's, I don't know.
That's easy. I mean, it's a joke that my wife and I always talk about whenever I get a friend's residual. Why weren't you Chandler? That's
There you
it.
go.
That is, I don't have
That's a
any
good
other
one.
opportunities where I've had an opportunity to invest in something.
Okay, number 4, show and tell. As a teenager, what was your favorite poster in your room and how did you get it?
Oh my God, my favorite poster in my room when I was a teenager was probably a poster of the Tubes. And so I
Yeah.
had the huge poster of the completion backward principle. So if you're a Tubes fan, shout out to you. If you're not,
Freeway
go
Bill
listen
and
to them.
all the
Yep,
gang.
that's right. White Punks on Dope and What Do You Want from Life, and of course Talk to You Later. And so that's how I got into that band. In addition to, I would also say that I'd be remiss if I didn't say I had probably 4 blacklight posters in my room too that had black lights over them that my mom bought me. So that's the sequel to the Tubes one, which is the most prevalent one in my memory, in addition to the blacklight posters too.
Excellent. I mean, blacklight. So it's a lost art form. Um, number 5, what's the best thing you've ever done? The worst thing you've ever done professionally, like as an actor?
It's a lost art form, the blacklight. What? The best thing I've ever done?
Yeah, well, like on a professional level, let's like, what's your favorite performance and your least favorite performance?
Oh, wow. Okay. Um, I think my favorite performance on film is probably the shows, They Came from Outer Space shows. It's a tie between that and probably Tour of Duty. I did an episode of Tour of Duty the end of '86, I think.
That was
And
a Vietnam vet show or Vietnam show, right? Yeah. Where it
yes,
was a heavy
Vietnam
drama,
show about
not
it, yeah.
comedy.
That the producer, one of the producers, it was his directorial debut, and so it was a big deal for him, and so they flew it shot in Hawaii, so it was a very different role for me, it was a departure, so it was dramatic. So it was probably a tie between They Came from Outer Space and Tour of Duty.
Fair. And your worst, like you
Oh,
just look
worst.
at it and go, "Oh Jesus."
Yeah, worst is probably she's got to be Dr. Alien. It's got to be. I just that's available on some streaming service that for free, and so I thought I'm gonna watch a couple minutes of that. It's pretty bad.
And
Pretty.
you'd think with a name like Dr. Alien that it'd be more entertaining.
It would be more entertaining if it was the original title. I was a teenage sex mutant and not Dr. Alien. That would be more
A
because
much better title for that.
totally.
Okay, number 6, no show. What part did you want but didn't get?
Well, dude, we just talked about that. That was definitely one of them. I mean, there
Okay.
weren't a lot of those parts that I went in for that I was heartbroken, but for sure, Last Frontier is one of them. And then there was another part called there wasn't it wasn't like a Chandler, just by that point, you've already moved on. But what was it called? It was a TV show. It had shot in the title, but it was heartbreaking.
Okay.
I remember just um, you're gonna get it, you're gonna get it, they're gonna get, you're gonna get it. They want you to come back one more time. They put it off for 3 months. You're gonna get it. And then I didn't end up getting it. I mean, otherwise, I could go on and on and on. Come on, there's always those roles that you go in for. You're like, I mean, listen, when I first started, I was lucky enough to go in and read for Ferris Bueller when I was first
Right.
starting. And so you want to go back that far? I mean, but is it like heartbreaking to me? No.
Yeah.
It was one of those, going in for this role. It's an incredible script. I had the opportunity, that and like Platoon, and I read for a lot of these. Godfather 3. I got a chance to read for all of these. It was, wonderful opportunities, but they weren't heartbreaking. Those, well, I think that's going to kill me. You, you'll figure it out. But for sure, Last Frontier is one of them, and this other one called it's not Slapshot, of course, something shot.
All right, number 7, what's your favorite show? What movie has most influenced you? Like when you think about like as an actor.
Sure, that's an easy one, man. There was when I was younger, 1984, I think it was 84. There was when I was just kind of transitioning from um, well, there's a few movies, but this movie specifically, when I was transitioning from like, what kind of actor do I want to be? Still studying, trying to hone, what my personality was like, what kind of characters am I gonna read for, and still like thinking about theater. I went to see a movie called The Pope of Greenwich Village, and there was something
They
about
took my fucking thumb, Charlie.
exactly. There was
Yeah.
something about the relationship between those two characters, the Mickey Rourke and Eric Roberts, something
Yeah.
about the way that they related to each other. In addition to, at the time, everybody thought I was from New York, so I thought, okay, I'm going to be cast, in those kind of roles. But there was a relationship between those two actors that just to me that spoke to me. So for a long time, that for sure was my favorite movie of all time, The Pope of Greenwich Village.
Number 8, show me again. What movie do you rewatch the most?
That's an easy one too. So there's certain movies you probably have that every time they're on TV, you stop and watch it, regardless of it's commercial or it's cable.
Right.
So you, not to expand on the 50th anniversary of Jaws, but Jaws is definitely got to be the Jaws and The Sting are at the top of that list, for sure. Those are the two movies when I was a kid that I just watch over and over again. That's on my, that's on my speed dial of movies. Um, uh, Godfather is one of those movies. Godfather 2. Those are the movies that I can watch over and over again.
Okay, number 9, Show Me Some Love. What's your favorite performance of mine?
So that's a great question because I've watched a lot of Pat recently. And I will say there it's easy for me to say Ski School, but I also enjoyed you very much in Heathers and in Summer School. But after watching so much Pat prepping to do your podcast, I will tell you, you shared, and I wanted to ask you this earlier, you shared an improv you did. And I don't know if that was at the Groundlings or not, but it was filmed and it was a stroke of brilliance. It was great. That was definitely my favorite performance.
What was the scene?
Down left, number 2.
I don't see why assuming it's a natural part. I mean, when a woman ovulates, her body retains water, and that's blood.
Was that a sketch, or were you improvising that?
Shows you're fertile.
No, this is something I wrote. So that was me at every party in the 90s, basically. That's what, that's a real, it wasn't word for word, but very close.
That was like a quintessential like sketch from that time too. It's a great snapshot. I don't know. I really liked it. It really struck a chord with me because I remember that time being on stage and the audience was totally with you. I don't know. That was it.
Well, I appreciate that. That's a nice, excellent, wonderful, deep cut, and I'm very honored that
Down left 2. Now we'll remember it.
Epilogue. Okay, now we're into the epilogue, and that is the plugs where we can plug away. I want to plug and tell you and have you tell us about the StuartFratkin.com. What can we find there?
Well, so a couple of years ago, I created a website based on emails and questions about projects that I've done in the past and what did I do with all the pictures and the scripts. And so I'm one of those people that has everything. So I thought it'd be fun to create a website and have all of that stuff available for people to see at their leisure. All the original scripts and some of the sides and some pictures from those projects, the call sheets. So that's really
such a great idea.
So it's a fun website. There are a couple games on there. So if you were at all interested in looking at the script for my original shooting script for Ski School, or They Came from Outer Space, and Friends is up there too, and of course Teen Wolf too.
It's so nice, man. And then tell me the name of this movie that you produced.
The name of the movie is called Don't Say It. And it was written and it stars an actor named Rich Grosso. And it is semi-autobiographical and it's cute. And I'm proud of it. It is a sweet love story that is doesn't have any violence in it. It's well acted, it's well produced, and it's available on all of the streaming services, and you could watch it for free on Tubi.
Love it. Okay, excellent. Well, we're at the end. Is there anything else you want to get out there, or anything just want to say? But
no, thank you for having me. Thanks for having me on your show, Pat. I think you should keep doing what you're doing because you're very good at it. This has been an absolute treat.
I just want to thank you, Stuart Fratkin. This was awesome. Loved going down memory lane, and let's make it another 30 years before we talk again. No. Thank you for coming on the show, man.
My pleasure, buddy.
It's the Patrick Labyorteaux Show. Patrick Labyorteaux. He's the one you gotta know.
Hey, everybody. I'm so glad that you're enjoying the podcast and checking it out. It is an audio podcast wherever you get your audio podcast, and it's a video podcast over on YouTube. My socials are all patrick.labyorteaux, and that is on Instagram, on YouTube, on TikTok. I'm everywhere. If you want information on the school, you can go to workingactorsschool.com. We have classes going all the time. It's a lot of fun. I suggest you check it out. Hey, we'll see you next time.
It's the Patrick Labyorteaux Show. Patrick Labyorteaux. He's the one you gotta know.